welcome each and every single one to another fantastic drawing. I messed that up. To another fantastic reading stream. And it is the first day of Pride Month, which means my power grow ever stronger. I'm literally wearing my Could Be Gayer shorts right now. My t-shirt is in the washing machine right now, so I can wear that, obviously. But yeah. Welcome, everyone. We are going to be finishing Wings of Fire, this book. There we go. Wings of Fire, book 7, called Winter Turning. We're going to be finishing that today. The last 4 chapters and the epilogue. I do not know if there is like a snippet of the next book. Ooh! There's actually a snippet of the next book in this one. Yay! Yes, okay, sorry. I got excited there. Totally not having this fake energy because I've been fighting off a panic attack most of the day. Because my brain started telling me that my partner for some reason hates me, is mad at me, or is disappointed at me. Yeah. I've been dealing with that today. Obviously I can't find any evidence of that being the truth. But my brain keeps telling me that's what's happening, so I've been trying to fight off a panic attack most of the day. So yeah, when... I know it's not true, obviously. But it's just how I'm living with an anxious and... well... This is just being anxious and having a low self-confidence. Not really liking ourselves all that much. That's how it is. I would try to like make my setup a bit gayer, but you know, I've always got my pride flags in the background. I don't see how we can make that gayer. So yeah. Oh, also, if we somehow finish the book before we hit the 2-hour mark, I'm going to be, like, talking to you guys and, maybe drawing something? Yeah, maybe start, I'm thinking of starting, like, a gay drawing, a pride drawing. I'm still trying to figure out if anyone wanna... Wow, my chair is loud. I'm still trying to figure out if anyone wanna join me on my weekend streams. To like talk about their experiences with being in the LGBT plus. And their journey and how they found themselves, how they found their name, if they changed their name, and so on. I will be talking about like my experiences. And how I found my name, because it is a pretty weird name. It's not common at all. It's a pretty unique name, Marv. So I will be talking about that as well, but in the drawing streams on the weekends, I'm gonna try and see if Bones actually wanna come on stream with me and talk about their experiences with like being gay, being a lesbian, figuring themselves out, figuring a gender out last year, and such. And maybe I can like pry into what they like about me, how they started like getting a crush on me, because I'm intrigued. I still don't see the appeal of me. But isn't that basically everyone's like, I don't see the appeal in me, you know? You don't see the appeal in yourself, but the appeal in others. You don't see why anyone would love you, but you can see why someone would love someone else. So yeah. I'm rambling, I'm babbling. But yeah. Got my headphones right there. We're listening to the Subnautica soundtrack, by the way. Just that this time. And I'll repeat and, you know, random. And again, you just say if I am too loud, I am too silent. If my music is too loud or too silent, and so on. You just remember that, okay? Just tell me. And talk in chat as well. No pressure to talk in chat, obviously. Like talk with each other and all that. Talk about what you like, about what we're reading. Ask me some questions. We can talk theories if you got some and all that. But yeah. Oh yeah! And I hope you all have your water as well. I filled up right before the stream. So yeah. We are going to be starting now. Chapter 21. A gust of wind swept a cloud across one of the moons, and it began to snow harder. Winter stared down at the tracks of dragon prints that crisscrossed the courtyard. He couldn't think. He could barely breathe. We did not think you could possibly be alive, Hailstorm, Narwhal said, inspecting his older son from wings to claws. Congratulations on your survival. The Queen will be pleased to welcome you back to her army. Hailstorm swept his tail in a slow arc through the snow, his head drooping lower. As for you, Winter, Narwhal went on, we have heard a lot of stories about your behavior. Perhaps you can clarify some of them for us. Attacking your own sister Jade Mountain Academy, leaving the school without your queen's permission, traveling with a Nightwing, leading the Rainwings straight to Icicle's hiding place so she could be imprisoned, and then abandoning her unconscious in the rainforest when a Nightwing might have murdered her, disappearing in Superior without consulting your queen, consorting with dragons from other tribes, gone for days with no message sent home, and no oversight or explanation for your behavior. He took a step toward Winter, his talons crunching in the snow. What were we supposed to think? How were we supposed to account for you in the rankings? What choice did the Queen have? He swam one wing toward the wall. That's where she's gone, Winter realized. Queen Glacier is in the rainforest to deal with the icicle situation. He wondered if his sister was still asleep, and whether Scarlet had returned to torment her dreams. How would the Queen decide to punish his sister for everything she had done? Queen Glory wasn't likely to accept demotion to the bottom of the 7th circle of the rankings as sufficient justice. No one but an Icewing would understand what that meant. Father, Hailstorm said suddenly, I see I'm no longer listed in the rankings, but may I have permission to speak? Narwhal inclined his head. Briefly, if you please. My brother acted rashly and without oversight, said Hailstorm. But he did so to save my life. I would have been executed within hours if he had not saved me in time. He was courageous and honorable in his time away from the Ice Kingdom. I am prepared to attest to that before the Queen. Oh dear. His eyes flickered sideways to Winter, the only betrayal that he was not telling the truth. The entire truth. Winter knew he couldn't possibly approve of Winter's friendship with Quibbly, Moon, and Kinkajou. But would he hide it to protect Winter? Was he expecting Winter to hide the truth about Pyrite in exchange? Come to my chambers, Narwhal said, shaking snow off his wings. Tell me the whole story there. Winter, go to your room and I will summon you shortly. Hailstorm shot Winter another significant look as he followed their father away. A minute later, the other ice wings in the courtyard had dispersed, leaving Winter alone. He spent several minutes scanning the rankings, taking note of what had changed in his absence. His cousin Snowfall was the new top of the first circle on the Dragonet side, which was disheartening as she was already abundantly blessed with mean smugness. Lynx was in second place behind Snowfall, and that was much better news. She was only the daughter of a minor noble, but a hard worker and very smart. On the adult side, he saw that his parents had fallen several spots, nearly into the third circle, which meant they were almost in danger of losing their right to live in the palace. That's our fault, he realized. Having me and Icicle at the bottom of our rankings reflect badly on them. We dragged them down. No wonder Father is so angry. At least Winter thought he was angry. It was hard to tell. Narwhal's outward demeanor was much the same whether he was proud or furious. Well, it wasn't very homecoming. That wasn't quite the homecoming I was hoping for. He admitted to himself. But he hadn't exactly expected a parade either. A nod of approval was as much as his imagination had been able to come up with. But apparently, I was still hoping for too much. He dragged himself through the palace to his own old room, bowing low to everyone he passed, most of whom were too startled by his appearance to respond. In a way, it did make things simple, being at the very bottom. He didn't have to keep the list memorized when he knew that everyone was above him. He hoped seeing his old room would cheer him up, but instead it struck him as a bare, joyless box that seemed to have shrunk while he was away. The one window overlooked the courtyard, which he definitely did not want to look at right now. The snowflakes in the walls had become a blizzard, matching the oncoming snowstorm outside. Sorry. Winter set the moon globe on his desk, turning it one rotation to dim the light to a sleep-appropriate glow. He dropped onto the shelf of ice that served as a bed, and then, after an uncomfortable minute, he got up and pulled the two polar bear rugs up onto the bed with him. Perhaps sleeping in grass had made him soft, but he was too tired to punish his aching bones anymore. He curled up into the warm white fur, remembering the bright colors of the rainforest, the busy sounds and smells of possibility, the voices calling and talents thumping through the halls of the Jade Mountain Academy. The flash of silver scales against black, dark eyes in the moonlight. The fire that roared forth to protect her friends. Don't dream about Moon, he told himself with his last waking thought. And then fell asleep, knowing perfectly well that he would, and unable to feel anything but relief at the prospect. He had expected to be prodded into wakefulness with sharp claws by some messenger from his father. So it was unsettling to wake up slowly and realize that morning light was pouring through the window. It was even more unsettling to roll over and find his mother's eyes fixed on him from only a few inches away. Winter let out a yelp and sat up fast, knocking one of the rugs to the floor. Tundra frowned at it for a moment, looking more puzzled than disapproving, and finally kicked it out of her way with one foot. The skywing teeth in her necklace made a jittery, small clattering sound. Made the jittery, small clattering sound they always made when she moved. A sound that still made Winter want to run and hide in a snowbank. "The sun has been up for an hour," she said. Winter took a deep, stabilizing breath and tried to match her flat, "Here is some information" tone. "I did not stop to sleep after finding Hailstorm," he said. "We flew home as fast as we could. Apart from one detour to drop an injured rainwing in a town of overlapping dragon tribes that you would hate the sight. You would hate on the sight." He wondered how Kinkaji was doing and whether she'd woken up yet. Chandra studied him for a moment with her stormy grey eyes. "Good," she said at length. "No apologies. But now it is time to rise. There will be a ceremony in the courtyard in 7 minutes that you must attend." "Yes, Mother," Winter said, stepping off the bed shelf. "A ceremony, most likely restoring Hailstorm to the rankings. But where? At the top, where he'd been when he was captured?" Winter hoped he'd get to see Snowfall's face if that happened. That would make the torture of the rankings ceremony worthwhile. His mother paused in the doorway and gave him another assessing look. Finally, she said, "Thank you for bringing Hailstorm home." "What is this feeling?" Winter wondered. Elation? Pride? He'd never felt anything quite like this swelling in his chest before. He dared to give her the smallest of smiles. Sandra blinked slowly. "It was the least you could do," she added, and then she turned and left. Winter could practically hear Quibley's voice in the room beside him. "So that didn't last very long." He startled himself by laughing. "I better not do that again, not in front of Mother and Father. I'm going to have to work harder than ever to climb back up the rankings now." He scooped some snow off the windowsill and rubbed it all over his scales, polishing them as clean as he could get them in 3 minutes. Sorry. He made it down to the courtyard 2 minutes before the ceremony. Almost every dragonette in the palace was there, lined up in order, wings folded in attention position. He found his way to the end of the line, in the back corner farthest from the ranking wall. The tiny dragonettes back there with him gave him curious looks and whispered to one another in voices that were really not whispers at all. Adult dragons were gathered around the perimeter of the courtyard. More than were ever usually present for a dragonette ranking ceremony. The sun glinted off white scales in many of the windows, indicating that even more were watching from overhead. They want to see how Father will handle this situation, Winter thought. Can he be impartial with his own son? Will everyone still think his decision is fair? Tundra, Narwhal, and Hailstorm swept into the courtyard in a triangle formation with Narwhal at the front. This was something Winter had seen so many times growing up, but had never expected to see again. Their tails swept majestically through the snow, leaving long snaking trails behind them. Narwhal pivoted to face the gathered dragonettes, who all fell instantly silent. Gonna turn the music down a bit. There. We have some changes to make to the rankings, of which you all should be aware, Winter's father said, his resonant voice echoing around the courtyard. He sounded just like Queen Glacier, straight to business without any meandering preambles. There we go. Several months ago, a dragonette was removed from the wall due to reports of his death. He has now returned to us, alive after all. This is my son, Queen Glacier's nephew, Hailstorm. Narwhal indicated Winter's brother with a sideways flick of his wing. Therefore, he must be added back to the rankings. He turned to Tundra, who flexed her claws, ready to write. At the time of his capture, Hailstorm was in first place. Winter risked craning his neck to see Snowfall, right at the front of the crowd. Her face was turned away from him, but he could see rigid tension all the way through her spine and wings. Fuck. Sorry, I accidentally read ahead again. But he has been without oversight for almost 2 years, and by his own admission, in that time he has not behaved according to our Icewing standards. We must also factor in the clumsiness of allowing himself to be caught by Skywings in the first place. Winter flinched. What a thing for Hailstorm to hear upon his homecoming. Therefore, after careful consideration, Narwhal announced, we are slotting Hailstorm into last place in the 7th circle. May he claw his way back up with his own talents. A collective gasp and a murmur of bewilderment ran through the gathered dragons. Even the most rigorously trained Icewings couldn't suppress their reactions. No one had ever expected to see Hailstorm's name at the bottom of the rankings list. Tundra bent toward the wall, scratching Hailstorm's name below icicles. Wow. Winter felt faintly dizzy. It had to be unprecedented in Icewing history for one set of parents to have all 3 of their nearly grown dragonettes in the last 3 spots. This would be devastating for Tundra's and Narwhal's rankings as well. Would they all have to move out of the palace? Where would they be assigned? What would mother and father do if they were no longer advisors to the queen? At least no one could accuse Narwhal of sentimentality or favoritism. Hailstorm was watching their mother with a perfectly impassive expression. Did he remember that he'd once been on track to be ranked even higher than his parents? No one had ever been number 1 in the Dragonette rankings for as long as he had been. Expectations had been high for where he might climb once he turned 7 and shifted to the adult rankings. A deep chill suddenly ran through Winter's scales. Turning 7. He'd completely forgotten. He hadn't even thought about how old Hailstorm was. Hailstorm's 7th hatching day was only 12 days away, and wherever he was in the rankings on that day would determine the course of the rest of his life. Could even Hailstorm rise back to the top that fast? Would he choose to risk the trial? Or would he be exiled to an island outpost 2 weeks from now? Perhaps Winter had rescued his brother from one terrible fate only to doom him to another. One more announcement, Father said brusquely. Another dragonet was recently shifted to the bottom of the list due to unsupervised, unauthorized activity. However, a new light has been shed on his behavior for the last week. According to the newest information, he has conducted himself with courage and intelligence befitting an Icewing. While we cannot approve of any dragonet acting outside approved orders, as he has, in this case, the final result, returning a missing dragon to the tribe, outweighs our disapproval. Winter could scarcely believe his father was talking about him. The balance of praise to criticism had never tilted in his direction before. Would this give him back up to 4th circle? Maybe even 3rd? Therefore, we are obligated to adjust his ranking accordingly. All present advisors have been consulted, and by general agreement, we are slotting my other son, Winter, into 1st place in the rankings. Tundra lifted her talons and stabbed Winter's name on the wall. With a crackling sound and a shower of icy sparks, she slid the name sideways and up, flapping her wings to reach the very top of the 1st circle. 1st place. Me. What? Hundreds of eyes were staring at Winter now. The crowd reaction was less shocked than the reaction to Hailstorm's replacement. Other dragons had performed deeds worthy of jumping to the front of the rankings before, although perhaps there was an undercurrent of surprise that it was Winter of all dragonets who'd managed it. Did I really earn it though? Winter wondered. What did Hailstorm tell them? Also, although he didn't want to admit this to himself, he couldn't fight off the lurking suspicion that this was surely Narwhal's way of maintaining his own status. A son in 1st place would counterbalance the weight of one in last. And if the story of his heroic rescue was impressive enough, it might even drag Tundra and Narwhal back up a few numbers. Winter, his father said, indicating the front row with his tail. Winter wondered if he was the only one who could hear the tiny notes of impatience in Narwhal's voice. He spread his wings and rose into the air, feeling the wide-eyed gaze of baby dragonets following him. As he flew to the front, he passed Hailstorm in midair, but his brother only nodded on his way by. The glare Winter got from Snowfall should have melted all the ice in the courtyard. She edged sideways to let him take her spot, fuming. 1st place. Number 1. It was really up there, his own name shining at the very top of the rankings. Maybe I can take a minute to enjoy it, even if I'm not quite sure how I got here. He gave Snowfall a dazzling smile, and she hunched her wings with a scowl. On the other side, Lynx smiled back, mouthing the words, "So great!" Narwhal cleared his throat. As per the usual protocol, the Queen will review the new assignments upon her return, which we anticipate will be tomorrow. Further changes may be in order then. Winter saw his mother glance at Icicle's name, then drop an expressionless mask over her features. But for now, these are our new rankings. Dragonets dismissed. The courtyard instantly filled with the murmur of shocked conversation. Winter saw a few older, extremely high-ranked dragons coming toward him. He wished he could cover himself in snow and hide. Well, Snowfall said, looking down her nose at a spot just behind his left ear. That was unexpected. Yes, he agreed. Congratulations, Lynx said. You must have had such an adventure. She had an unusual pattern of dark blue scales scattered across her white snout and wings. Winter had always found them pretty, but Now they just reminded him of Moon's silver scales. He wished he could tell Moon that he was number 1 in the rankings, although, of course, that wouldn't mean anything to her. Indeed, said Snowfall. I can't wait to hear all the details. On that ominous note, Winter was swept into a whirlwind of congratulations, questions, bowing, and advice. Every adult dragon in the palace had an opinion on how to maintain your spot, and many of them had suggestions for his future if he could keep first place all the way until his 7th hatching day. Behind them, Snowfall's smirk clearly expressed that she didn't expect it to last even a week. 1 week, Quibbly's voice echoed in Winter's head. He still had 5 days to decide to go back to them. 4, since 1 would be needed for traveling. What am I thinking? No one would ever leave after reaching first place. This is every Icewing Dragonette's dream. Firmly, he focused his mind on the nobles around him. Was it hours later that the courtyard finally cleared? The last noble gave him a respectful nod and flew away. Only a few dragonettes remained, including Snowfall and Hailstorm, who were both staring at the rankings as if they could reshape them with the sheer force of their eyeballs. Winter's stomach ached with hunger, but he needed to talk to Hailstorm before going hunting. Maybe they could even go together. One of the things Winter had missed most while Hailstorm was away. Was the Dragonette in first place allowed to hunt with the Dragonette in last? Could he choose his new ranking if he associated himself? Could he lose his new ranking if he associated himself with someone in the 7th circle? There had never been such a gap between family members before, so he wasn't quite sure what the protocol should be. But he was going to talk to Hailstorm anyway. The watching dragons could eat the moons if they cared. He needed to reassure his brother that climbing back up the rankings could be done, and remind him that it had to be done fast, in case Hailstorm's muddled memory couldn't recall his hatching day. The snow was packed down by the hundreds of dragon feet that had passed through this morning. Shards of blue sunlight reflected off the tallest towers, illuminating odd splotches of the courtyard. Snowfall watched the brothers with slitted eyes as Winter slid up to Hailstorm. Are you alright? Winter whispered. Hailstorm frowned at him. That's not a very Icewing question, he pointed out. He hesitated and then bowed deeply to Winter. Stop it, stand up, Winter hissed. What a horrible feeling to have his exceptional older brother bowing to him like that. It made his whole world feel out of order, as if the palace had been flipped upside down. He tried to hide how flustered he was as Hailstorm stood back up. It seems like a good sign that you remember what is and isn't an Icewing question, he pointed out. Of course I do, Winter said in a distant way. Everything is very clear now that I'm home. And yet, the way he glanced at the sky, Winter wondered if he had really shaken off all those Skywing memories yet. Perhaps he remembered how to be an Icewing, but he hadn't yet found his way back to being Hailstorm. The brother Winter had missed for so long would have had a laughing comment about Winter's new rank. Hailstorm? Winter said hesitantly. What did you tell Mother and Father? He wished they'd thought to compare stories before coming home. He needed to know what he should say about Pyrite and where Hailstorm had been for the last 2 years. I told them the truth. Hailstorm drew himself up, looking offended. What else would I tell them? The truth about everything? Winter asked. About my friends too? Hailstorm's expression now was pure icewing. If that's what you want to call them, he spat. Yes, I told them about your little band of misfits. I hoped they would promote you up the rankings. I owed you that much. But I did not expect them to raise you so high. Not with the entire truth in front of them. He fell silent, scowling at the wall again. This is so interesting, isn't it? Snowfall strutted toward them, casting arc looks at the circles. The moons, Hailstorm. I bet you feel so peculiar right now. Leave him alone, Winter growled. She laughed. There is not quite enough distance between our numbers for you to be giving me orders, she said. Her snout was smiling, but her voice was all murderous stalactites. Besides, she added, I'm sure I won't be the only dragon who wants to ask Hailstorm about the diamond trial. Are you considering it, Hailstorm dear? With only 12 days until you're 7? I certainly hope so. Hailstorm didn't answer her. Winter wondered if he remembered what the trial was. It had never been attempted in Winter's lifetime. He wasn't even sure it had happened in his father's lifetime. It was so rare for Dragonette to still be in 6th or 7th circle when he reached his 7th hatching day. And rarer still for any Dragonette that inadequate to risk his life on the mysterious trial. But Hailstorm wasn't inadequate. It was pure bad luck that had him so low right now. Whatever the trial involved, surely he could conquer it easily. I mean, if you succeed, you'll move up to 1st place, Snowfall said archly. Your life would be right back on track instantaneously. You're going to do it, aren't you? Winter asked his brother. He couldn't understand why Hailstorm was staring fixedly down at his talons. Oh, how funny. I wouldn't have thought you'd want him to. Snowfall went on, her voice sugary sweet and mocking. Have you forgotten that the diamond trial must also be undertaken by a defending challenger? That's whoever is currently in 1st place, of course. But only one dragon can survive the trial. Dear me, that means it'll be brother against brother, won't it? Tisk tisk, what a conundrum for poor Hailstorm. Winter felt ice grip his heart and spread down to his talons, rooting him to the snow. He had forgotten about that part of the trial rules. Or rather, it had never occurred to him that he might be on the other end, the defending 1st place Dragonette instead of the struggling lower circle challenger. But Hailstorm knew exactly how it worked. He knew it would have to be him or Winter, that only one could survive. And of course, Winter's parents did too. This was their plan. To move a dragon into 1st place who would be no trouble for Hailstorm to defeat. Snowfall was Glacia's daughter and formidable in her own way, only a few months from her hatching day. But Winter was expendable. Sacrifice one brother to save the other. Couldn't give us both high rankings. Someone would have called that unfair. This is more dramatic, more like my parents. A higher risk for much higher gain. They had to do it. Hailstorm's future is too valuable to throw away. He understood his parents' motivations completely. Whatever happened to the diamond trial, they'd end up with a son in first place, and they'd get rid of a disgraceful last place offender. But Hailstorm? His brother finally looked up at him with those blue eyes sharp and alert once again. This is what you told me to do, his eyes seemed to say. You wanted me to be a true Icewing again. Well, here I am. And without a word, Hailstorm turned and left the courtyard, leaving Winter behind as a new snow softly began to fall. End of chapter 21. Damn. Oh, well, shit. His parents are conniving demons, basically. I don't like them. And I don't like Snowfall. I perhaps like Lynx. I don't know. I don't know much about her personality. Anyway, I'm going to hydrate real quick. So I'm on mute. And kaboom! Chapter 22. The summons arrived later that day. Hailstorm's messenger found Winter on one of the tallest spires, gloomily picking apart the seal he'd caught. He hadn't been able to find anywhere else seed in peace. Everywhere he went, dragons bowed or hurried over to offer him things, or buzzed around with a million questions. And as the day wore on, he'd heard the whispered phrase more and more. The diamond trial, the diamond trial. Every dragon over the age of 3 knew what it was, but no one could give him any details. The trial was shrouded in mystery, and there was no one left in the palace who'd survived it, since it hadn't been used in so long. Prince Winter, said a clipped voice behind him, shaking Winter out of his thoughts. The messenger handed over a small slab of ice marked with precisely carved letters. She stepped back and bowed deeply. Good luck, sir. According to the brief, impersonal message, the trial was scheduled for sunset the next day. Yeah, he needs to leave. I want him to leave right now. What would happen if I did something terrible between now and then? Winter wondered. If I snubbed the wrong dragon, or dripped seal blood in the pristine courtyard, or broke one of the queen's ice sculptures, would I drop down the ranks? Would someone else have to face the trial with Hailstorm? He had a feeling nothing like that would work. The plan was in motion, and Narwhal wouldn't put Snowfall into the trial, no matter what Winter did. Queen Glacia would be too furious if she came back and found her daughter's life in jeopardy. And if he fled or tried to refuse the challenge, he'd bring shame upon his whole family, and cost Hailstorm any chance he had at climbing the rankings before his hatching day. For a moment, Winter turned the message slab over in his talons, and then spread his wings. The only thing he could do was fight. Fight for his new position at the top of the rankings. Fight for his family's melting honor. Fight for his own life. It was what Hailstorm and his parents would want him to do. Even if they hoped he would lose in the end, he still had to go down like an Icewing warrior. He spent the rest of the day in the palace library, looking for the diamond caves mentioned in the summons. He'd never heard of them, but there they were on an old map. If the Ice Kingdom's peninsula was shaped like a dragon's head, the caves were located where her frost breath would come out. Diamond Caves. The most famous diamond in Icewing history was Queen Diamond, the mother of Prince Arctic, the Animus who had been stolen by Foeslayer and the Nightwings. As a young dragon, Queen Diamond had given the tribe the gift of healing. 5 narwhal thorns horns enchanted to cure frostbreath injury in case any icewing ever wounded another. But there had been a few other diamonds over the years as well. He wondered if the caves on the trial were named after one of the historic diamonds, and why. He slept poorly that night, troubled by dreams of Moon and Quibbly and Hailstorm, all in danger, their scales melting and shifting into other colors as he searched for them in the halls of the Ice Palace. Every time he woke, he wondered why he hadn't been visited by Scarlet again. He could only imagine her wrath since she discovered that Pyrite/Hailstorm was gone. The next morning he found Lynx and asked her to train with him. The familiar fighting patterns came naturally, and focusing on her attacks helped drive out all of the worries in his head. They leaped and wrestled in the snow outside the palace until they were exhausted. Afterward, as they washed each other's dark blue blood off their claws and scales, they heard wing beats and looked up. Queen Glacier was back. Behind her flew two generals and Icicle. Winter watched them soar into the palace. He wondered what the queen would think of Narwhal's scheme. Would she stop it? Would she rearrange the rankings before sunset? Could she do that? Even with the summons already issued? If she could, she didn't. A few hours later, she was among the 12 dragons assembling in the courtyard to fly to the Diamond Caves. Prince Winter, she said, and he bowed as deeply as he could. The Icewind Queen was huge and majestic, far more beautiful and imposing than any other Queen Imperia. He wondered if he was only imagining that he could see sympathy in her eyes. You've served the tribe well, returning Prince Hailstorm to us, she said. I wish you luck in the trial. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said. There was an uncomfortable prickle at the back of his neck that she suspected meant Hailstorm was nearby, staring at him. You will fly alongside me on the way to the caves, she said. I wish to hear about everything that has happened since you left for Jade Mountain. I've heard your sister's version of the events, but I suspect another perspective would be instructive. Yes, Your Majesty, he said. May I ask what's going to happen to Icicle? She looked grave. It's a good question. Queen Glory is not like other queens. I thought she would demand Icicle's execution, but instead she said she would leave Icicle's punishment entirely to me in exchange for something unusual, a cutting from our moon globe tree. What does that mean? Winter asked. I wasn't sure either, said the queen. Apparently with plants, you can take a piece of it and bury that somewhere else, and then a new plant will grow from that piece. The idea, I think, is that she wants to grow moon globe trees in her rainforest to bring the gift of light to the rainwings and nightwings. Oh, Winter said, startled. He didn't know quite how to wrap his head around this. Will it work? It might, said Queen Glacier. The tree is enchanted to behave like a real tree. And I can see how such a thing would benefit her tribe greatly, although, as I said, it's an unusual queen who would choose a path toward peace and cooperation over clear and simple vengeance. She flicked her wings, frowning thoughtfully. The question is whether her tribe will be satisfied with this solution. I suppose we'll see. It may partly depend on how I ultimately punish Icicle, but I haven't decided that yet. They lifted off into the cloudy grey sky, flying southwest with Tundra and Narwhal in the lead, and Hailstorm trailing at the back, as befitted his last place ranking. Winter had to struggle to keep up with Queen Glacier's pace, but she didn't seem to notice. And since he had a feeling he was about to die, he told her almost everything. About Icicle trying to kill Starflight, and how Winter stopped her, about the rainforest and the volcano, about going in search of Scarlet, meeting Pyrite, and encountering the mysterious Nightwing in the valley. He left out a few things, though. Moon's powers and her prophecy. The fact that his friends were waiting for him in possibility at that very moment. The way he felt about them, especially Moon. The Queen only stopped him once during his story. "Who?" she asked. He paused, startled. "Your Majesty? You said there was an Icewing with the talents of peace." Queen Glacia shot a glance at the hole in the clouds where a piece of sunlight had muscled through. "Who was it?" "His name was Cirrus," Winter answered. "I didn't know him, and he didn't know me. He was confusing." "We haven't had a Cirrus in many years," the Queen mused. "I don't recall any Icewing leaving us for the talents of peace, unless they were from the lower classes, outside the rankings. Perhaps that's why I don't know him. Or perhaps he changed his name." "He acted like an aristocrat," Winter said. It hadn't even occurred to him that Cirrus might be from the outskirts of the Ice Kingdom. That would explain why he didn't tell Winter his ranking, though. He implied that he knew my parents, but in a way that seemed like he was lying. Queen Glacia said. "I'll look into it. Go on." Most of the clouds had cleared, and the sky was shading into a brilliant orange-red when they finally dove out of the sky toward a snow-covered evergreen forest clustered at the base of an enormous white cliff. Pine needles jabbed Winter's snout as she dropped through the trees to the forest floor. The scent of the pines surrounded them, and the snow crunched like crushed paper under his talons. He thought of the pyrite scroll spell, now carefully tucked away in the skyfire pouch around his ankle. A cave mouth yawned in the side of the cliff, glittering with stalactites as sharp as teeth. Ice covered the walls, floor, and ceiling all the way into the tunnel, as far as Winter could see before darkness took over. He touched the moon globe over his shoulder, making sure I was still there and still working. "Prince Winter and Hailstorm," the Queen said briskly. "Your task is simple. Enter the diamond caves and search until you find the frozen dragon by the river chasm. Touch one of these spears to her." She took 2 gleaming diamond-tipped spears from one of her guards and handed them to the brothers, 1 apiece. "Whoever returns shall take first place in the rankings. The other, we bid farewell." "Huh. Ominous and unspecific," snarked Quibley's voice in Winter's head. Narwhal stepped forward and tipped his long snout down to study his sons. "Remember, be strong," he said. "Be vigilant. Strike first." "Restore a family's rank," added Tundra. Narwhal's gaze rested on Winter for a moment. "Farewell," he said finally. "Whichever of you does not return, I know you will accept defeat with honor." Sounds great, Winter thought, feeling lightheaded. Always wanted to defeat with a side of honor. He had a feeling he should say something here, but Hailstorm was already pivoting and marching into the cave. Winter glanced around at the assembled Icewings one more time. Was this his last time he would see his parents, his queen, and the sky? When he'd said goodbye to Moon, had it really been forever? He found he didn't have anything to say to his parents after all. Winter turned in silence and followed Hailstorm into the icy tunnel. The diamond caves, according to the one map Winter had found, apparently stretched for miles in a kind of underground labyrinth with only one exit. Walls of ice hemmed them in on all sides, glittering blue-white in the light of their moon globes. My nose is starting to itch. They had to creep along narrow ledges and dark crevices, gripping the ice with their claws, because if they tried to fly into that vast dark space, they might not find their way back before tiring and falling to their deaths. Why is my nose so itchy? Hailstorm glanced back at Winter once or twice with a frown, as if he had expected Winter to choose a different path. But Winter did not want to wander this labyrinth alone, with no way to know if Hailstorm had completed the task yet or not. Better to stick together and know for sure. They wandered for hours, perhaps in circles, perhaps in spirals or downward. Winter was beginning to wonder if the frozen dragon even existed at all when they came out of a narrow tunnel and found the river chasm before them. This had to be it. A wide slash in the ice ahead of them, with sheer walls that plunged down into a darkness that echoed with the rushing sound of a river. Winter lifted his moon globe higher, scanning the cave, and felt a terrible chill run through his veins. The cave was filled with frozen dragons. Nearly 100 of them glittered in the moon globe's light, some of this side of the chasm, but most of them on the other side. The one closest to him looked like an ordinary ice wing with an almost cheerful expression on his face, stepping toward Winter as though he were about to saunter out the door. But others were frozen in positions of horror, their talons covering their face of their wing, or their wings flung out as though they were trying to leap away. And he could see a few that had clearly been fighting when they were frozen, wearing expressions of fury. And there were no other ways in or out, apart from the chasm and the tunnel behind them. Eerie blue bubbles morphed and twisted within the shining ice walls, moving as though the cave itself was breathing. Which statue was the frozen dragon? Which one were they supposed to touch with the spear? Hailstorm was staring around at the ice sculptures as though he were one of them. Winter took a step into the cave and noticed a sparkling pile of crushed ice near the entrance. He nudged his moon globe toward it, wondering why the pile was so big, when he saw a dragon's talon buried in the ice with a few of its claws snapped off. Maybe this one had been mid-flight when he was frozen, and had splashed to pieces when he fell to the ground. Or maybe whoever froze him decided to finish the job by bashing his frozen corpse to smithereens. Winter shuddered, his tail spikes rattling along the floor. Suddenly, Hailstorm leapt forward. Winter whirled and saw him racing toward a dragon on the far side of the chasm. A dragon larger than any of the others, with her claws outstretched and her wings flared. Hailstorm sailed across the gap, landed, pivoted, and struck the statue with a spear. It all happened in a moment, like a burst of lightning. By the time Winter landed beside him, Hailstorm was in battle position, brandishing his spear against whatever happens next. A crackling sound came from the dragon, and then, slowly, bits of ice began to break off, splintering into falling shards and shattering against the floor. The frozen dragon comes to life, Winter realized. It makes sense. Then we fight her, and she kills one of us, and the other wins. He looked around at the frozen statues and winced. Or she freezes one of us. These must all be dragons who've lost their trial, and I could be one of them soon. He looked back at the large frozen dragon and realized she was not actually made of ice. She was encased inside the ice, and as her prison came apart, he saw her scales, and they were dark as the moonless night. This was a nightwing. She pulled in her wings and then flung out her claws, shaking the last of the ice off. Only 2 spots still glittered against her scales, a pair of shackles around her back ankles, although they didn't seem to be connected to anything. With a hiss, she turned in a circle, then whipped around to drop the full force of a glare at the princess. "Oh, good," she rasped in a hoarse voice. "More Icewing dragonettes with spears." "I'm here to kill you," Hailstorm announced, without a tremor of insecurity in his voice. "And you all," she said dryly. "Shall we introduce ourselves first?" Hailstorm and Winter exchanged glances. Was that normal? Conversation with a creatively imprisoned Nightwing? "I'm Prince Winter," said Winter after an awkward pause, "and this is my brother, Hailstorm." "Brothers, oh my, how devastating," said the Nightwing. "Welcome to my prison." "I am Foe Slayer." Winter started back, his head reeling. Foe Slayer? The same Foe Slayer who stole the Icewing Animus Prince Arctic? The mother of Darkstalker? End of chapter 22. We got 2 more chapters, an epilogue, and a snippet of the next book left. I'm gonna hydrate real quick, so I'm gonna mute. Oh yeah, I just realized maybe I should remove my follower goal, actually, because we've reached Pride. Hopefully we'll get to 50 during Pride, if, people search through the tag to find new streamers. Boop. There we go. The follower goal is gone. Okay. And if you're just tuning in, we are reading the last of the book called Winter Turning. It is the 7th book of the Wings of Fire series. That's the cover right there. We are about to start chapter 23 out of 24. So we're almost done. Yeah. Chapter 23. "You've heard of me," she observed with a hint of amusement. "That's... You don't mean..." Winter couldn't seem to put his words together. "Yes," the Nightwing said, "your ancient and terrible enemy. Everyone is always surprised. I want to know what the point is of abducting and freezing your arch nemesis and never telling anyone about it. Don't you want to shout it from the clouds so everyone will know how dangerous and powerful you are?" "You can't be alive after all this time, though," Winter finally managed to get out. She folded in her wings. A curl of smoke rose from her snout. After a moment, she said, "No, don't tell me. I don't want to know how long it's been. I'll never see them again anyway." Her tail flicked toward the icy cave walls. "It's part of your queen's gift, Icewing. I've been frozen in time, so I only age in the moments when I'm unfrozen like this. The plan, evidently, is to keep me here for a very, very long time." "Thousands of years," Winter thought, aghast. "She's been down here for 2,000 years already." The gift of vengeance, he said. But Queen Diamond had already given the tribe a gift long before her son was stolen, which meant she must have used her animus magic again to create this prison. Had it driven her mad? He couldn't remember anything in the history books about what happened to her after Prince Arctic was gone. Indeed, said Foeslayer. You could say my mother-in-law and I have a complicated relationship. He heard the scratch of claws on ice behind him, and then suddenly there was a blur of blue-white motion. Hailstorm launched himself at Foeslayer, swinging the spear around to stab her through the heart. The Nightwing dodged aside and seized the spear, jerking it out of his talons. Hailstorm caught his balance, whirled, and attacked again. His claws slashed at her throat, and she slammed the blunt end of the spear against his side, knocking him into the wall. With a roar, he was up again, this time seizing her tail and clambering up it onto her back. He sank his fierce claws into the flesh between her shoulder blades and heaved up as though he was trying to yank out her spine. Foeslayer shrieked and threw herself into a roll, tucking her wings and landing heavily on Hailstorm. He lost his grip on her amid an explosion of sharp cracks, which sounded to Winter like bones snapping. The Nightwing leaped free again and came straight at Hailstorm while his underbelly was exposed. Her back talons pinned down his tail, and she raised the spear to impale him through the heart. Winter drew himself at her without a second thought, tackling her to the ground. They rolled and twisted and slid across the icy floor, kicking at each other with their claws. "You idiots!" she yelled at him. His head bashed into the cave wall, and tears of pain sprang into his eyes. "Do Ice Wings get dumber every year? Don't you want to win?" He flung her off so hard she spun across the ice and nearly slid over the edge into the chasm. "That's not what I want," Winter shouted. "I don't want to win if it means Hailstorm has to die." He whirled to face his brother, who was on his feet and panting. His sides splattered with red and blue blood. "What are we fighting for? A number on a wall? Your life is more important to me than the rankings, Hailstorm." Hailstorm growled. "I would have said the same thing, brother," he said, "but I sacrificed myself for you once already. And it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. You can imagine how it feels to know what I've done, to have these memories in my head." He clawed at his temples. "I want my life back. I want myself back. And I won't get it if I reach my hatching day in last place. I have to be first again." The old familiar guilt was surging back through Winter. My fault. I didn't think it would be you I'd have to destroy in order to get back to first, Hailstorm admitted, but it had to be someone. I won't be a traitor to my tribe anymore. When I'm number one, I can prove it. Winter looked back at Foeslayer, who had slowly risen to her feet and was listening with a curious expression. "Is there any other way?" he asked her. "A way we can both live?" "I'm not the right dragon to ask," she said. "Frankly, I'd rather see you all dead." "I'll take last place," Winter said to Hailstorm. "What if we told the Queen that? Would she let us switch?" Hailstorm snorted. "Where's the honor in that for me?" he asked. "No, they won't agree to it. If we both came out of the caves, they'll just kill one of us and probably leave the other in last place." He picked up the spear Foeslayer had dropped and twisted it between his talons. The Nightwing breathed a jet of flame that melted the wings of the statue closest to her. This is very moving, but would one of you kill me, please, already? Please kill me already. She paced toward them, her dark eyes reflecting the light of their moon globes. I'm tired. I haven't eaten in hundreds of years, and these days it's even more painful to be awake than go through the process of dying again. Dying? Winter asked. Yes, she said, stopping in front of them and spreading her wings. You stab me, I die painfully, and then I go back to being frozen until someone wakes me up again. It's a cunning enchantment. The first 40 times Queen Diamond killed me herself. Fosleya let out a bitter chuckle. I suspect the original point of the spell was that she wasn't satisfied with killing me just once. But then the 41st time, there were 2 dragonets here, so she must have decided I could be used for this other purpose, whatever you two are here for. So, you just get murdered over and over again? Winter asked. That's my punishment, Fosleya shrugged eloquently. Here's some advice for you. Never make an animus angry. Winter turned to Hailstorm, puzzled. Then how did all these other dragons get frozen? Maybe that's part of the spell too. One kills Fosleya and then the other one freezes? It seemed more complicated than the usual animus spell. Hailstorm's eyes were fixed on the spear. You do it, he said gruffly. You kill her. No, Hailstorm said. Winter said, Hailstorm, you're right. You've already sacrificed yourself for me. I've been waiting for 2 years to make it up to you. Winter, Hailstorm said. I'm not going to be responsible for your death a second time, Winter insisted. It's my turn. Let's face it. This is what Mother and Father would want. Hailstorm winced, but didn't argue. Just be a great Icewing, Winter said. Help keep the tribes at peace. That's what I would want. This is peculiar, Fosleya spoke up, but not as peculiar as you might think. I've seen a surprising amount of this. I'll die for you. No, I'll die for you. No, let me be the brave sacrifice. Nonsense from Icewings over the years. Do it, Winter said to Hailstorm. I'm ready. Me too, said Fosleya. As fast, as clean as you can, please. Hailstorm took the spear, leveled it at Fosleya's heart, and drove it swiftly through her chest. She gritted her teeth, her face twisted in pain, and then the ice came crawling up from the shackles on her ankles, freezing her from her tail forward to her wings, neck, and head. Hailstorm pulled the spear free from the ice before the ice got there, and Winter saw the wound heal over just before Fosleya was completely frozen. He closed his eyes, expecting the world to go dark, but it didn't. Nothing happened at all. After a moment, he opened his eyes again and saw Hailstorm standing by the edge of the chasm. Why didn't it work? Winter asked. I'm not frozen. He looked around at the other statues. Something whispered in his mind. An explanation, although it still didn't quite fit together. Right, Hailstorm said. He turned to look at his brother. That's because it's not part of the original enchantment. The spell on the Icewing isn't what froze these dragons. He lifted the spear. That's what these do. That's what I'm supposed to do to you. Winter was silent. Everything was starting to make a kind of awful sense. Mother and Father told me earlier today. Hailstorm's wings drooped to the floor. They told me that no matter who killed Fosleya, I was the one chosen to win. that I was to take this spear and stab you the same way I stabbed her, freezing you like all these other dragons. Then I was guaranteed first place. Do they do this every time? Winter wondered. Choose one dragonette to win? Tell only that dragonette the secret of the spears and how to freeze the other? He shouldn't have felt surprised or betrayed. Of course his parents would choose Hailstorm. This was really quite normal, given the patterns of their lives so far. But it still hurt. Deep inside him, where he thought his family couldn't hurt him anymore. Moon, Quigley, and Kinkachi wouldn't do something like this to me, he thought. Alright, he said out loud. Then I guess that's what you have to do. He set down his own spear and braced himself. You know I can't, Hailstorm snapped. You're the one who rescued me. You're my brother. I'm not going to murder you now, so you're just going to have to do it to me. He tossed the spear to Winter, who jumped aside and let it clatter to the ground. They stared at each other for a long moment as the rush of the river below filled the cavern. All the frozen dragons seemed to be waiting, like a captive audience enjoying the suspense. If we can't kill each other, Winter said, maybe we will leave it like this. You go out and claim victory, and I wait to sneak out later. We both live. Hailstorm shook his head. As soon as you got home, they'd throw me back into last place, and probably you as well. I won't go home, Winter said. He felt a lump forming in his throat, like frost breath icing over his windpipe. I'll stay away from the Ice Kingdom. It didn't sound possible. His whole life was about being an Icewind, being Queen Galatia's nephew, proving something to Chandra and Narwhal. He believed in the perfection and superiority of the Ice Kingdom. How could he ever be happy anywhere else? But now he'd been to so many other places. He'd seen the world beyond the Ice Kingdom, and it wasn't so terrible, really. Because happiness is not where I am. It's who I'm with. And he knew exactly who he wanted to be with. Hailstorm's claws curled in and out as he thought. He reached out and picked up one of the diamond-tipped spears. And Winter felt a quick bolt of fear that his brother had decided to kill him anyway. But Hailstorm just bowed and took a step backward. Thank you, brother, he said. I hope one day I'll see you again. Winter nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Hailstorm turned and flew across the chasm. In the entrance to the tunnel, he paused, glancing back at Winter, and then he fled, his footsteps echoing behind him. A long time passed. Winter tried to keep track of the hours in his head, calculating when it would be dawn. Finally, he stood up, stretched, and picked up the other diamond-tipped spear. Taking a deep breath, he reached out and tapped Foeslayer with it. End of chapter 23. Okay. Ooh, boy! We're almost done! Oh! Because in the prophecy they need to find the lost city of night, and obviously Foeslayer was from that time. So obviously he would free her. So she could lead him there to stop whatever terrible thing's going to happen. Lead him and his friends there, obviously. Gosh, it makes sense. Gonna hydrate real quick. Okay, I'm just gonna check real quick if I got like any notifications. Don't think so. Yeah. Okay. Last chapter of the day! Obviously, we still have the epilogue and the snippet of the next book left, but shh. Starting to itch. Why am I itching so much all of a sudden? Sorry, that sounded weird. Let's continue reading! Chapter 24. The ice around the Nightwing cracked and splintered just as it had before, and Foeslayer slowly opened her eyes. Surprise flashed across her face, and when she saw Winter there, "This is a first," she said. "I have never been brought back by the same dragonettes before. Did you want a chance to kill me too? Seems a little over the top, if you don't mind my saying so." "Listen," Winter said. "I don't know if you realize how much you stole from us when you took away our animus magic. The gift of light, of order, and running like a hidden current under every dragonette's understanding of himself. The gift of faith in their tribe came from the indisputable wisdom of how Icewings handled their magic. Imagine what our kingdom would be like if we still had animus dragons," Winter went on. "What else could we have invented?" "I suspect you wouldn't have stayed in your little kingdom much longer," Foeslayer answered him. "Have you considered that your perfect tribe might have used the magic for evil as well as good?" Was that true? Would we have done something terrible with it? Or what kind of gift might Queen Galatia had asked for during the War of Sandwing's succession? He shook out his wings. "You stole Prince Arctic. You stole all our future gifts. Everything that we might have become. And I can see why some dragons would think that's unforgivable." His scales felt heavier and heavier as he went on. "But this imprisonment for centuries, keeping you alive only to die over and over again, I feel like perhaps you've been punished enough." Foeslayer turned away from him and rested her talons on one of the frozen dragonettes, hiding her face. After a moment she said, in a muffled, fractured voice, "I didn't steal him." "Prince Arctic?" Winter said. "I didn't steal him." Foeslayer lifted one wing so she could meet Winter's eyes. "I fell in love with him." An entire history of a tribe, the story of a war, the foundation of an ancient hatred. It all shivered in Winter's mind, like stepping onto the thinnest layer of ice. "And he loved me too," Foeslayer said. "That's the truth. Although no Icewing has ever listened long enough to hear it before." Everything was splintering again, apart. "We didn't mean to ruin everything," she said, "or start a terrible war, or make two tribes hate each other for all eternity. We just wanted to be together." He believed her. He wouldn't have a month ago, but now he believed her because he knew exactly how that felt. Oh, sorry. Because he could imagine throwing everything away too, for the chance to be with Moon. If they dared to start something, would he and Moon end as badly as Foeslayer and Arctic? Would he risk it, even after seeing where it might lead? "It's different," he told himself. "Queen Diamond cared very much what happened to Prince Arctic. No one cares at all what happens to me. So now you know," Foeslayer said, rolling the spear over to him. "Ready to kill me?" He shook his head. "I'm getting you out of here." The Nightwing's eyes gleamed, dark and glittering in the light of his moon globe. "That's impossible, I'm afraid," she said. "Every time I try to cross that chasm, some kind of invisible wall drives me back. I assume the enchantment was crafted to keep me here forever." "Maybe," Winter said, "but Icewings are careful planners, especially when it comes to animus gifts. I'm sure Diamond left a way to free you in case they needed you to negotiate with the Nightwings. He stepped back, studying her from wings to tail. It must be your shackles. That's what's been Animus touch, right? She lifted one back foot and then the other. Well, they're impervious to fire, she said, and nothing happens when I smash them against the wall, except it makes my ankles hurt. Except it makes my ankles really hurt. So I'm guessing they're enchanted, yes. Whatever will break them, Winter said, I bet can only be done by a member of the royal family. If I know Ice Wings anyway. But you're in luck because that's what I am. He tried not to think about his name on the rankings wall, his name glittering at the top and then Tundra's claws scratching through it, marking him as dead. He picked up one of the spears and pointed it at the shackles. Hold still. Oh dear, Foeslayer said, closing her eyes. With a swift jabbing motion, Winter struck the closest shackle with the tip of the spear. It bounced off, reverberating in his claws. The shackle looked untouched. Winter set the spear down again and crouched to examine the shackles. There was a small diamond shape indented on the side of each one. Carefully he poked the diamond with one claw, but that didn't do anything. One more possibility. Something only an Icewing could do, which made it safe because no Icewing would ever need to free a Nightwing. He reached inside him for the lurking snowfall and then breathed out, covering the diamond with frost breath. The shackles sprang apart, clattering to the floor, and shattered into tiny pieces. Foeslayer sat up, staring at the other shackle with hope and disbelief warring in her eyes. Wait, Winter said. He touched the other shackle. I have to make sure of one thing. If I free you, you have to promise you won't go hurt any Icewings. I don't want a whole new cycle of vengeance and war to start. Do you understand? It ends here. I never want to see an Icewing ever again in my whole life, Foeslayer said fervently. Set me free and I'll go straight home to the Night Kingdom, and you'll never see me again. The Night Kingdom. The lost city of night. Foeslayer knew exactly where it was. She could help them stop the prophecy. Okay, so that wasn't what he first was. That wasn't what his thought was when he wanted to free her. Okay! That was my theory shattered. Actually, Winter said, I want to come with you. This was his future now. Not prince among Icewings, not Queen Glacia's nephew, not a warrior struggling his way up the rankings under the disapproving gaze of his parents. He was a dragon who had friends from other tribes, and he was going to save Jade Mountain with them. He leaned forward to breathe frost breath on the last shackle. Moon Quibbly can catch you. I'm coming. Wait for me. I'll be there soon. End of chapter 24. Now we only have the epilogue and the snippet of the next book left. Ow. Hydration first. I feel like I got some kind of hair stuck in my throat, which is making me cough so much. It is uncomfortable, to say the least. Anyway, epilogue. Alone and buried in rock, Darkstalker waited and listened. 26 dragonettes remained of the 35 who had started at Jade Mountain Academy, and their minds were full of secrets. In the art cave, a Nightwing wondered where Moonwatcher and the rest of the Jade Winglet had gone. He dipped his brush in paint and worried about the secret letter he had just received from old friends. Is it true? Have they escaped Thorn's prison? Are they really coming back soon with an army? And does Mother know? And will she join them? Which side of the coup would she be on? And would I want her to? Or are things maybe better the way they are, even with a Rainwing for a queen? He didn't know. He'd have to make a choice, probably sooner than he wanted to, and he had no idea what the right decision would be. Darkstalker knew. He knew which option would lead this dragonet to a long, safe life, and which would end in death within the year. He also knew which choice would be better for his own plans. But which path the dragonet would take, that was still uncertain. Outside, on the sandy bank of a mountain stream, the mind-shrouded Sandwing took off her necklace, hid it carefully under a rock, and waded into the frigid water. Darkstalker narrowed in on her, knowing this was a rare few minutes of exposure. Cold, cold, cold! She was cursing as she splashed. Stupid, stupid, stupid 3 moons, why is it so cold? I've got to get back to the desert. Abruptly out loud, she said, Are you listening? You'd better be. For a moment, Darkstalker was startled into thinking she meant him, but then she went on. This plan is inane. I haven't learned anything new here, and I can barely get near the daughter, especially after all the aggravation with caves exploding and the inconvenient nuisances. I thought I had an idea, but then he up and vanished from school. I have no idea how frustrating it is. You have no idea how frustrating it is. It's like 400 of stories are going on around me, and nobody has noticed that I am the one who's going to shape the future of Pyria. She brooded for a moment, thinking jumbled thoughts about castles and crowns of power. Finally, she said, There's one more possible option if I stay a bit longer. A dragonet as loyal to that Thorn character as anyone, and I think she's connected to one of Thorn's generals. She might be my in. I'll give it a try, but if it gets too annoying, I'm coming back to the Scorpion Den. Onyx climbed out of the stream and shook her wings furiously. Send a message the usual way. I will be queen within the year, this month. Whether that old dragon helps me, or whether I have to kill him and do it myself. She dropped the necklace over her head, and all Darkstalker could hear was fuss. Interesting. Who was she talking to? And how? He wished he could tell Moonwatcher. He wished he could tell anyone, but with her gone, he had no one left who could hear him. Come back soon, little Moonwatcher. Bring me my talisman and come back soon. Deep in the underground lake, another dragonet was swimming, although the temperature of the water didn't bother her. Fathom's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter dove to the bottom and then shot up out of the lake, soaring to the ceiling and spiraling back down with a splash. Very impressive, princess, called the sea wing named Pike, paddling in a small circle nearby. Such speed, such grace. The sea wing with the skyfire bracelet snorted from the top of the rock. Anybody can do that, he said. Not when you're tied to your mother, his sister said, squirting water at him with her talons. I've never flown as fast as I wanted, or soared as high as I could go. Now I can do anything I want. Stop being such a mope, Turtle. So what if your entire winglet is gone? You've still got us. She thwacked her tail into the water, sending a wave over the other 3 sea wings in the lake with her. Unless Mother comes and tries to take me home. But I won't let her. I won't. I might be the most powerful dragon in the world, and if she didn't learn that from what I did to Whirlpool, I can teach her some other way. The spell on Auklet's harness should keep her away from me, though. If it doesn't, I'll come up with something stronger. Tag, you're it! Barracuda called, tapping Anemone's tail and racing away. The rest of the Sea Wing Princess's thoughts scattered into laughter and the game. Darkstalker studied her possible futures thoughtfully, then tucked them away and moved on. There. Now this was the most interesting mind in the school. This poor dragon, pacing in an empty cave, afraid of her own scales. Her mind was a blazing mess of flames, hot and fierce and self-destructive. Her dreams were haunted by a hissing queen with a melted face. Her heart was given entirely and forever to the only dragon she couldn't hurt. Was she the talents of power and fire? Darkstalker wasn't sure. The path ahead of her were all confusing, like trying to follow a map into a forest fire. But on the other side, something flickered through the smoke. Something like hope. Something shaped like a scroll. He didn't have to see exactly what would happen. He was already sure of one thing. This dragon could change everything. And that was the end of the epilogue. The Wings of Fire will continue in book 8, called Escaping Peril, which will be from Peril's perspective. Here is the snippet. It is 2 pages long. Okay. Dang. There! Talons thumping on stone. The rough slither of a tail. Was it him? Peril nearly leaped into the corridor and came within a wing flicker of colliding with a dragon who definitely wasn't clay. The dark green sea-wing dragonet didn't scream or faint or stagger back in terror. He simply froze, slamming his eyes closed, as though danger would obligingly disappear the moment he couldn't see it anymore. What are you doing? Peril yelped, jumping away from him. He said in a low, rumbly voice. Walking in the halls, back to my cave. He risked opening one eye to peer at her. Well, that was very stupid of you, she snapped. He thought about that for a moment, then opened both eyes and regarded her peacefully. Oh, he said. Sorry. What a peculiar dragon. He seemed to have no fire about him at all. That wasn't a sea-wing thing. Tsunami was a fireball that blazed up and down and sideways at everything that made her mad, which was most things. And her sister, the little sea-wing princess, at least from a distance, seemed to be a shower of bright orange sparks on the inside. This sea-wing on the other talon was a puddle. A fireless puddle, bubbling quietly into the rocks in front of her, not even trying to get away. You're Peril, aren't you? He said. Queen Scarlet's... He trailed off, perhaps realizing there was no good way to end that sentence. Champion, weapon, notorious death monster. Yes, she hissed. I'm Queen Scarlet's notorious death monster. He made an odd hiccuping noise and ducked his head. Ah, okay, I'll just go then. What would Clay want her to do in this situation? Maybe you'll make some friends here, he'd said, in that oblivious, magical way he had of thinking that any other dragon in the world might have open hearts like his. Who are you? She asked. That got out more menacing than it sounded in my head. I mean, who are you? She tried, adding a sunny-ish, cheerful lilt to her voice. Now I said it sound manic. I'm not being creepy, she added hastily. I'm not, like, putting you on a murder list or anything. I don't have a murder list. Not a to-be murder list, I mean. Wait, no. To be clear, I have no kind of murder list at all. Definitely out of the murdering business. Me. Maybe I should stop saying the word murder. That would be great, the Seawing said, if you wouldn't mind. And that was the end of the snippet. So yeah, that was the end of Winter Turning, and we will be continuing the series on Monday with Escaping Peril. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the book. There it was. I need. This is what it looks like. Cover. Maybe I should like try and find it. Here. The cover. Ooh. Maybe I should actually. Oh yeah, because there's a full cover. Maybe I should put that instead, because lucky. Here. Okay, well, this isn't really good quality. Well, this one isn't very good quality, but Queen Scarlet is on the back of the cover. Is on the back of the cover, following after Peril. So, I'm going to try. Oh, and there's some cute art of Peril and Clay looking at each other. It is so adorable. Sorry. Full cover, HD. Let's see if we can find an HD image of it. Is this a good one? Maybe. Or maybe this one. I'm just trying to find a good quality picture, honestly. I mean, there's a wiki for the series, so I could try and look at that. Wings of Fire. Wiki Wings of Fire books. Second Arc, Escape and Peril. Well, we have the front cover, but I don't see the full cover. I wonder. This one's a good quality. That was the book 5. Oh! Oh! Well. Boom. Save images. Here. Come on. if we can open that. Okay. And then add that here. Image. Open. That new source. Peril. Press. This is so thrilling to watch, right? Huh. Maybe I should like, oh. Okay. One sec. Starting goes there, and then we have this one. There we go. And then I'm thinking we do wheels, make me a bit smaller, and then this up here. Sorry. How does this look? Because that's a full cover. Because like you can see there is Peril in the front, and then she is flying away from Queen Scarlet, which is the dragon in the back. And like you would only see Peril if I just had the front cover. But this is a full cover. Well, this is so cool. It's so cool, honestly. I love it. I love this art. Honestly. If only I could draw dragons. I need to start trying to figure out how to draw dragons, honestly. But yeah. I did say I was going to maybe draw, but I don't think we're gonna do that today. Anyway, let's go back here. Boom. I had said that maybe I would try and start drawing or something. If we didn't hit the 2-hour mark with reading, but I had in mind that might be we ended like before 1 hour 30 minutes. We ended the book there, but that's obviously not happening. Gosh, it is an amazing cover, honestly. I love it. You can legit see like the veins and stuff. There has been such a huge oh, what's that called? Focus on detail. Is that what it's called? There's been such focus on detail on this cover. It is amazing. I love it. And like you can literally see the smoke steaming from her mouth and scales as well. because she's got fire scales, basically. Like, only Clay is able to touch her scales because he's got fire-resistant scales. Fireproof scales. Because he comes from a blood red egg. That's really cool. But yeah, I'm thinking we're ending the stream now. We're ending the stream for today. I think we should do that. And then I don't know. I'm going to try and see if I could get Streamlabs on my brother's computer, and see if I could stream from there. Like stream some Minecraft from there. We'll see. Because he said there's not a lot of space on his computer, and it's also extremely bad. It's gotten extremely bad. So I don't know, maybe if I can't get that to work in the next few days, then the rest of the week will just be drawing, but I think maybe drawing and chatting. I hope you won't be opposed to that, though. Oh, I have like this sign. It says on the one side it says "Shh, I'm daydreaming." Can you see it there? Yeah. And on the other side it says "Shh, shush, I'm still daydreaming." And I just love that. I don't know. I found it recently again. Oh, I got the cups now and put it on my table. I just kind of looked at it. Oh, sorry. Well, this music is banger. This soundtrack is banger. I love it. Anyway, yeah, I'm thinking we're ending it today now. I can't talk anymore. I'm thinking we're ending the stream now. I think we should do that. And then if I can't get it to work tomorrow with streaming Minecraft, then expect a drawing stream. So either Minecraft or drawing tomorrow. I'm not sure which it'll be yet. But yeah. Can you actually hear me properly when I'm sitting like all the way over here? That's cool. That's cool. I mean, you don't have to sit all the way up here and be kind of quiet, you know? ASMR. Sorry. But yeah. And I might also be dyeing my hair again because it's starting to get like silverish, fading out to like a silver gray color, and I don't like that. I want purple, not silver. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it today. Enjoyed me reading today. Yeah. Well, you can see the chair. But yeah. As always, hydrate, do not dehydrate. If you do, I will come after you. Remember to treat others the way you want them to treat you. Be kind overall, basically. And yeah. And remember, it is Pride Month now. Our queer power grows ever stronger this month. It grows faster and even stronger this month than it usually does. I'll see if I can like get if Pride Parade in Aalborg will be open or something, and ask if I can, if my sister will go with me there, so I can experience my very first Pride parade there. Yes, last year was supposed to be my first year, but well, we all got locked in our rooms because of a pandemic. Pansexuals are happy. The pansexual demis are very happy. You know, demisexual, demi-romantic. It's plain words. I am, yeah. You can thank Eden for that, one of my mods. They have that in their Twitter bio, like, pandemic. I'm a pandemic. And I think that's really funny. That's a really good one. Yeah. I got some crackers I might eat. And maybe I'll eat some ice cream. Oh, someone's coming home now. But yeah. Remember to follow if you haven't already. Oh. I need to actually. There. Just realized it was still there. And then one sec. There. Yeah. I will be focusing a lot on, you know, LGBT stuff this month. And I am, like, last year, I had this validation thing I did. Each day, I would shout out a sexuality or gender and make sure everyone knew they were valid. And there are so many different sexualities and genders out there. So I won't be able to get around to everything, to everyone, sadly. But I have seen no genders in, because I know a lot of people ask for that, and they don't get a lot of attention, if you will. Like, yeah, attention, focus when it comes to Pride Month days. When it comes to Pride Month, like, many make schedules for, like, first day is for gay. Is for gay people. Second, lesbians. Third, pansexuals, bisexuals, and all that. And gender people I never included. So I always do my darndest to include everyone who usually aren't included, because they're all valid and everything. They're all valid. Okay? And I also, I do that on Twitter. I might also, like, do, like, a shout out on stream, like, hey, today's shout out goes to. I'm still working on the list. I've been procrastinating on that list. I procrastinate a lot. But yeah. And I also, like, do this fact today. At least one history fact today, from, like, the beginning of human history to now. Something that happened yesterday is a history fact now. And I usually do that, a history fact about the LGBT community a day. At least one. And I am going to be conversing with my partner about that, see if they can fish anything up, because they love history. And I love them. I'm also going to see if I can, like, get them on a stream, like, talk about their experiences, being queer, where they grew up, and everything. But yeah. that was a long outro. I did my outro a long time ago, and now I've just kept on going, actually. Anyway, but yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. And VOD viewers, I love you. I love each and every single one of you. Okay? Never forget you're valid. If you're just being yourself, and it doesn't hurt anyone. Oh, and when homophobes and all that jazz, when they say, I'm also being myself, you should add, I'm being myself, and me being myself doesn't hurt anyone. You being yourself does. Stop it. Get some help. Because I have had someone say that to me after I said, I'm being myself. In regards to like my sexuality and my gender. And then I was hit with, I'm also being myself. And now I've like really figured out how to answer that. Like, be yourself if it doesn't hurt anyone. If it hurts someone, if you being yourself hurts someone, you should reevaluate your life. Your choices. You should reevaluate who you are. Think about what you're doing. Think about your actions. Think about being in the other person's shoes. So yeah. And if you don't care about that jazz, if you don't care about all that, and you keep hurting people, stop it. Get some help. Seriously. But yeah, that was it for today. VOD viewers, love you. Everyone else, love you. If you're an asshole, don't love you. Yeah. Asshole being like homophobic, transphobic, biphobic, LGBT-phobic basically, and fatphobic as well, because I am a plus-size person. And I have had quite a few fat-shaming people in my chat. And that is a no-go. Anyway, yeah. Love y'all.